Hey there, I'm Sean Collins, co-CEO of Affiliate Summit, and today I have a couple stories about one of our past keynotes. It was Jim Bouton, who was a former pitcher for the New York Yankees, and sadly he died recently, and he was sick for quite a while. I was really ashamed to see it though. He won World Series games in the '60s, and he went on for a career where he was in movies. He wrote a best-selling book, Ball 4, and he was actually the guy that created Big League Chew as well. He did all kinds of things, and very interesting guy, and it was one of my favorite keynotes dating back to, this was in Orlando in 2006, so one of our very first ones there. But and also the way that the genesis of that actually was that years before that, back in the 90s, I became a big fan of his book, Ball 4, and so one of my first affiliate sites was all about that book, driving traffic to Amazon. And so the site was called ball4book.com. And I still have that domain. I pointed to just the Amazon link for the book. But I used to have a very robust site with all kinds of things on there. I wrote letters to a lot of the players he mentioned in the book to ask them about what their impressions were of him. And I shared those letters on the site and sold a bunch of memorabilia. He played for a team called the Seattle Pilots after the Yankees. It was the team that's now the Brewers. They were for 1 year, they were in Seattle. So I got all kinds of memorabilia, pictures, cards, baseball cards, magazines and things. And also back then for a while I was buying all of his old books, all the different editions. So I have a bunch of old hardbacks and soft covers. He put out a new update every 10 years. He started with the first one in 1970. And the very last one that he updated was in 2000. And with that one, he actually in the acknowledgments or something in the back, not the prologue, it's the prologue, the start, whatever it was, the back section of the book in the update, he mentioned my book, ball4book.com. We've been in touch. And so that was very exciting for me to be in his book. And also around the same time, a couple other people were creating sites about the Seattle Pilots, the team that he was on back then. They were fans of the book. And it was during the early days of domains, and I went and I bought seattlepilots.com, and he asked me if he could have it, and so I gave it to him just because I really enjoyed what he was doing there with his books. And so we were in touch from time to time around then, and I guess it would have been maybe 98 or 99. I had a zine just about all kinds of different things about sports and music and New York City and stuff. It was called Velocity NYC. And that was also one of my first domains, velocitynyc.com, back in the 90s. But I reached out to him one time and asked him if I could interview him just about Ball 4 and about all kinds of different things. And so he let me call him up, and I called from work at the time at my first affiliate marketing job at medsite.com started there in 97. But I interviewed him on the phone. I had this little Radio Shack rig that was attached to the phone with a little suction cup to record the conversation. And I transcribed it and put it in my zine. And then at the same time too, I was doing a sort of moonlighting job where I was working on the weekends as the sports editor for the digital version of the Newark Star Ledger, the main New Jersey newspaper. And so I would go there and I would edit the stories and put them online and write the headlines and things. And one of the things I did there was I'd always have very favorable headlines to the teams that I liked, like the Yankees and the Mets. I usually, if they won, have some kind of disparaging headline because I wasn't very objective. But anyway, they ran my interview with him in there as well, and I've shared it in some places. It's online somewhere. I'll see if I can find the link. But so over the years, I just kept in touch with him, and I had his email address. His number was 56 when he played for the Yankees, and his email to the end was bout56@aol.com. So we'd email back and forth about things here and there. But then as Affiliate Summit was taking off, I was thinking he would be an amazing speaker because he was doing professional speaking, and so it was so cool to have him come there because I guess it was probably about 2 hours before the keynote, he just showed up and he found me, and so we just walked around, had coffee, sat around, and for 2 hours he just told me stories about the old Yankees in the 60s, and it was just amazing to hear these first-person stories. And one of the ones he told me was that so many times Mickey Mantle, who was one of my favorite players ever, he would get scratched from the lineup for a supposed injury. They would say that he just, I guess, not a torn ACL because that's more permanent, maybe like a strain. that was always because he was actually sleeping off a hangover and he couldn't play. But this one time they were playing this game where they were going through the entire bench, and so the manager called up Mickey to come pinch hit towards the end of the game. And so the whole dugout was laughing because they were like, there's no way he can possibly even stand up there. He's been asleep the whole game in the dugout. And so he goes up there on the first swing, he jacks the ball out for a home run. And then the whole time Jim Bouton was telling us in Mickey Mantle's like Oklahoma kind of twang. And so when he came back to the dugout, Jim was like, Mickey, how did you possibly hit that ball out like that? Like you're a blind drunk out there. And so he was like, in the Mickey voice, he was like, well, I'll tell you what, Jim, I went up there and I saw 3 balls coming. I just hit the one in the middle. And he said it with a completely straight face. It was the craziest thing. And he was just telling me all these stories about all the guys there, Whitey Ford and Phil Rizzuto and just all the whole old school Yankees. It was an amazing time. And one thing that stunk though is that we got these custom made baseballs, made up Philly Summit baseballs for him to sign. And but I sent them by USPS about a week in advance. They were like, yeah, they'll definitely get to Orlando in 3 days. So I get to Orlando and they never showed up until the day after Jim was there, and he's already gone back to his home in Massachusetts. So we had a bunch of these baseballs. But so a couple years later, I still had some. And when Cory Booker came and spoke at a Philly Summit in Boston, I brought them and we got a bunch of them signed. So here it's hard to really make out the signature there, but we have the Senator Cory Booker signed a bunch of Philly Summit baseballs, and so he's running for president now. So that's sort of neat that I have a bunch of. I'd imagine that myself and Missy and a couple other people are the only ones in the world that have a Philly Summit signed Cory Booker baseball, or Cory Booker signed a Philly Summit baseball. But anyway, it was rough seeing him pass away like that because and since he was a professional speaker, he was big on like all the talk shows back in the 70s because his book was such a big deal, and so he made his life speaking. And he had a stroke years ago, and he lost the ability to speak, and that was just tragic because he was such a hilarious guy and just such an interesting character. He was like back when baseball was just so straight-laced, he was like this counterculture guy that was raised all kinds of hell in the clubhouse. And then he was when he wrote Ball 4, that was revolutionary because nobody else ever gave like a behind-the-scenes peek into the locker room of a baseball team. And so he got all kinds of crap for it. And but when he wrote the book, it was gonna just sort of disappear into I guess nowhere land. Like nobody was ever gonna read this book. He wrote it, got published. Nobody noticed it. But then then baseball commissioner Billy Kuhn came across it, and he insisted to Jim Bouton that he disavow it and say that all these things were lies. And he refused to, and he went to the media and said that Billy Kuhn was asking him to do that. And so if I remember right, I think Billy Kuhn was saying that he was going to try to get this book banned because it was all lies. So that ended up being like amazing marketing for Jim Bouton, and he went from this obscure book to being a bestseller because all of a sudden everyone wanted to know what this book was that baseball wanted to ban. So yeah, a combination of like a very funny book and like any other success, like some good luck, good timing, and the assistance of an unknown clown that thought he was going to stop it, and instead he made it into a monster. But the irony was that a lot of people were mad at him, and then so many of these players later on wrote their own tell-all books. So it was a little bit of a ridiculous thing that everybody's so angry at him. And by today's standards, it wasn't very controversial. But it's a fun look back in a time into baseball in a simpler time. So if you're a baseball fan at all, or even just a fan of entertaining stuff, check out Ball 4 by Jim Bouton, and go to ball4book.com to get it, so you can give me 9 cents from Amazon. But anyway, rest in peace, Jim Bouton, and go Yankees. Take care.